I was an athlete. My family is a bunch of really, really accomplished athletes. My little brother is the guy named Travis Hansen, who some of you may know. He's currently the assistant athletic director for BYU. My sisters, Heather and Holly Hansen, were the first McDonald's All-American basketball players in the state of Utah. And I had a little brother named Landon, who was an incredible athlete as well. But in that time, I was a very mediocre baseball player. And so came home and had the opportunity to play on some really, really good softball teams. And in that, it was during the Oxycontin days. And so I had a couple of injuries and was prescribed some Percocet and then some Oxycontin for a couple of sports injuries, sorry. And the next thing I knew, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. We now know that that's literal heroin. It shouldn't have been prescribed to me. I wasn't dying of cancer or anything else. I just had a few injuries. And that really, I didn't know this, but my grandfathers were both alcoholics that upon converting to the church, left that behind. But at that time, it really woke it up in me. And it was something that I couldn't turn off. And then with my family's fame and my own, um, abilities, was able to readily get drugs and alcohol throughout the state of Utah. And so I was working for Channel 2 News, doing some marketing and advertising for them. And my addiction had got out of control in the sort that I was stealing from a business that I owned and using those funds to buy drugs. And my uncle was the district attorney in Provo at the time. And he had always said, if you come and get sentenced to anything in Provo, I'll make sure you do the maximum amount of time possible. And I thought he was kidding. It turns out he wasn't. And I went in with some pretty minimal charges, some theft and some drug things, and ended up being sentenced to 3 years in the Utah State Prison. And um, it was a blessing in my life. I had a therapist. I ended up getting sentenced to prison after about 36 days and receiving an orientation. I was moved to the Conquest program. And while I was in the Conquest program there, I had a therapist named Desmond Lomax, who some of you may be aware of. And he, in every intense of the word, saved my life. He was so very kind. I can remember, doing therapy with him and working with him and having all these wonderful conversations. And he pulled me aside one day and said, Ty, if you want to be a therapist, if you want to be successful, if you want to get out and do whatever you want to do, I fully believe you can do that. And you guys understand, I was so broken. I was so hurt. I was so embarrassed by the things that had gone on. I spent 3 days thinking, why would Desmond lie to me? Why would he tell someone that has no future, that and the messages you get in prison are you can't hold a job, you can't get out, you can't buy a home, you can't coach little league baseball, you can't do all the things, and all the hopes and dreams you have are done. And Desmond simply planted the seed that, if you want to get out and you want to do well, those things are possible. And it changed my very life. I had that, and I had a guard the day I got out. And I'll share this story with you. I had a guard. I was working in the library about a month before I was to get out, and I had a member of the white supremacists come in. And because I had done the drug program and because I had tried to change my life, it was it's not the most popular place to do the right thing, as I'm sure you guys are aware. And one of the white supremacist leaders came in and said, Ty, we don't appreciate what you're doing. We don't appreciate you programming. We don't appreciate you getting in the way of us bringing drugs in and some of these things. And, you guys have met me to a short degree. I am not the smartest person in the world. And my response was simply, well, you've been here for 25 years. I'm sure you'll be here for 25 more. I'm not trying to do what you're trying to do, which lovingly one of my favorite guards heard and pulled me aside and said, first off, can you not say that anymore to people? That's not good and said, "You are going to get beat up in the next week. This is going to happen." And he said, "When they come, which they surely will because of what you've done, you have two choices. You can kneel down and you can go home, or you can fight back and you will be here a lot longer." And literally, guys, within a 48-hour period, these guys came into the library, a couple of them came up behind me, started punching me, and I was able to, on camera, because of the, kindness from this guard, go down on one hand, go down on the other, go down on my knees, put my hands behind my head, and security showed up and whisked these guys out. And the funny part is they just barely paroled in the last 3 years. Um, and I was able to go home within that next 20 days. And so that was kind of one of those things that changed my entire life. It was, what is it to be a man? Does it mean to fight or stick up for yourself, or does it mean sometimes to lay down and take a punch to go home to your children? And it was an incredibly important lesson to me. On my way out, that same guard said, "I want you to get one job, work it as hard as you possibly can, then get a second job, work it as hard as you possibly can, and then when that's done, get a third job and do it." And he said, "By the time 6 months is up, you won't have any time to get in any trouble, and you'll be surprised how much money you have in the bank." And I did exactly that, you guys. I was working concrete during the day. I was working at a plastics factory at night, and on my off times on the weekends, I was volunteering at a treatment center. And it was exactly like he said. 6 months in, I had a bunch of money in the bank, and I decided to pursue my dream of going to school and becoming a substance use disorder counselor, which I did. And that was just an incredible experience. Going back to school, I had incredible professors, incredible people that were supportive. At that time, we put together the RISE program. James Childs, myself, and a couple of people in the Utah County Jail. And you guys will laugh at this, and Molly, you will understand this, and you will as well, and Shane. But when we went in, the idea of a bunch of dumb drug addicts coming in to teach classes was incredibly unpopular. And we met with 10 captains at the time, and Sheriff Durfee was there at the time, and then Mike Smith. And we sat in a circle. We proposed that we would come in and teach classes. We would do it for free. And 8 of the 10 individuals around the table voted against us. And Mike Smith and Sheriff Durfee had the controlling votes, and they voted us in. And one of the ladies in that meeting said, "You two will relapse and you'll ruin everything we're trying to create here." And I only tell you that story because if you guys have ever met James Childs, he is the guy that just barely finished his education at a place called MIT, and is absolutely, when he talks, I have to have a dictionary handy because I don't know all the words that he's saying, or my phone. But he's just a brilliant individual and has done it, the RISE program in Utah County and now in Tooele County, and is working on it in Salt Lake. And so that was a wonderful piece. And Mike Smith was so very kind to let me do my internships at the Utah County Jail for my schooling. And so at the time I finished my substance use disorder stuff, I was able to apply to BYU to be a social worker. They were kind enough to let me in, and I also pursued my degree that way. Um, and I started working at the treatment center that I currently own. And it was a wonderful experience. But I worked for an individual, and he was kind. He was a person in recovery, but it was very much financially driven, and all the decisions were made based on monetary value, what someone could pay, what their insurance would pay. And so we decided, myself and my current partner, Paul Walkenhorst, decided to change that a little bit and really run it from a spot of, would we be in a spot to help us today where we are? And so today we have 9 locations. We have almost 300 sober living beds. you guys will appreciate it. I talked to Bart Mortensen, who was over reentry services the other night on the phone, who's just one of my dear friends. Um, just on collaborating and doing what we can to give people some hope and give back. And he was kind enough when he was the warden in Gunnison to allow myself and Dave DeRocher and some people to go down and talk and to really take a risk because it was incredibly unpopular to let us in at any point. And this is even, I'll have 13 years in recovery coming up, but even at that, it was just, we don't want anybody coming in, we don't want prior offenders coming in. And when I was at BYU and applied to do my internships at the Utah State Prison, I was denied because I had previously been incarcerated there. And so it's been an interesting part. Bart was the first person to kind of say, anybody you bring on any given day, we'll let in and we'll let you come speak. And we had so many people from, Andy Reid to, Danny Ainge to Ryan Smith, so many people be willing to come out and speak and speak to the inmates and share just their strength and hope. And you guys understand this. They all want to help. They all want to give back. And usually somebody has somewhere in their family where they're connected to somebody that struggled with mental health or addiction or incarceration. And it's just so kind to hear from people you never think you would hear of that you matter and that we want you to get out and we want you to do better. And you guys understand that. Bart and I don't know if you guys know Lieutenant Evans that's at Summit County Jail, but he's wonderful. We've had some really pointed discussions with the Board of Pardons as of late because we keep giving people, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but we know that people with one sentinel event in their life, if if it was one event that caused them to have 19 or 20 years or anything over that, those people 99.7% of the time do not reoffend. And the Board of Pardons, with this indeterminate sentencing, has currently gone back and we've resentenced them to more time. And even though their mapping's done and every reason's possible that they should go home, we keep giving them more and more time. And so Bart's been wonderful to go back and lean on some pressure points and say, let's give them a shot. Or the Other Side Academy, let's put you in the Other Side Academy. Let's take a risk. Let's leverage all of the other time that you would do with the state of Utah, but let's let you out and give you a chance to have a normal life. And you guys have seen this with the Other Side Academy with Dave DeRocher and Jordan Holdaway, and so many people I was incarcerated with have gotten out, done incredibly, have stayed there, have continued to run that program, and it's been inspirational. And so just shifting everybody's mindsets in this has been such a process and such a fight that you guys are in it well, just to say let's give people a second chance. And people that have been incarcerated over 20 years, they don't reoffend. We know that's the case. The statistics and the data speak to that. So let's get them out and get them in a sober living and give them a job because that's what they need more than sitting there, for another 5 years. And so it's been nice to be part of that. I sit on the Board of Pardon. I've done a lot of stuff with the Board of Pardons. We've met pretty regularly with them and Bart to have conversations. I sit on the board of the Clean Slate Initiative, part of the Harm Reduction Initiative, just to get the message out there. And more than anything, I think we are headed in a good direction, but it is a constant battle and constant fight. And I really wish, there was a way to kind of do things better. And obviously they are getting better, but it's slowly. And so I'm grateful to be in this spot to be able to give back. If you guys have loved ones that need services or help or just some education or guidance, please contact me. You guys can at any time. I was just made an honorary colonel for the Utah County Sheriff's Office. I have a badge. I can now get in and out of any jail I want to on my own regard, which I really appreciate because it's a little nerve wracking going in, and it's sure nice to get out every time. Um, but I have been fully pardoned. I am going hunting with my family in Wyoming this year. I do have a bunch of guns, which is just kind of an incredible, is such a blessing to be on the other side of this. And I am just really going in, you guys, to tell the inmates that anything is possible, that their lives aren't ruined. I got to coach my little boys' soccer team with my wife, and they're the worst team in the entire world. But I got to be their coach, and I don't have any charges on my record. I don't have a background. I always tease Bart because he got a speeding ticket the other day that he's more of a criminal than I am at this point. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that. I spent a lot of time with Director Red, Tyler Clancy. There's so many great people, so many great advocates. I'm excited to see what Jared and the new group does here at the prison. They've been given some great mandates by the past directors and everybody else to kind of step up to the table, and I believe they're doing that. But it's nice to be able, to support them and do everything we can. The recovery business is wonderful. It's difficult. The fentanyl crisis, as you guys know, is so scary. We're losing so many people. You guys will appreciate this. The data came out this last year that we are in my day when I went to treatment at Circle Lodge in 2002, and they told us that a normal person had to do treatment 8 times before they got recovery. This last year, the number came out and it said it takes 4 times in treatment for somebody to get recovery. The problem with that number, you guys, is that people are only getting 4 chances at recovery before they don't get any more because of fentanyl. And it is so scary. It is so prevalent. I had a young man that lived down the street from me. He played football with my son, 6'3", super handsome, played on the football team. Parents brought him over to talk to me. He had started smoking weed with his girlfriend. They were buying it from her dad. The dad had laced it with fentanyl. And so the kid was smoking it 8, 9, 10 times a day, lost 60 pounds, lost his scholarship to play football. His life has never been the same, and was exposed to something at the age of 16, 17, and 18 it's just unfair. It's just not, the opportunities that I was given and the opportunities to recover. It's such a scary world with, um, Xanax and all the different pills and all the different things that people have access to today that we didn't have access to back in my day. And so treatment is wonderful. It's wonderful to see people get better. We now do a lot of stuff for the VA. We work with a lot of military personnel, a lot of first responders, and a lot of treatment for those guys who deserve it because they're our heroes because of what they did, in their lives. We are free today, and so we're wonderfully excited to work with them. Um, because they haven't had the opportunities to recover before. But that number of 22 suicides today, we found out this last year jumped to around 30 suicides a day of our military personnel. And so we need to figure out how to bridge that gap as well. Um, so grateful for Bart, so grateful for reentry. We are finally getting people out to the streets, to halfway houses, to different places. There are so many companies that are willing to hire people, that are willing to give them second chances. It was so difficult to get a job. I remember getting out of prisons. People were so uncomfortable with me and so didn't know what to do. I remember trying to get a job at a treatment center, and because I had just barely gotten out of prison, they were so uncomfortable having me around the other residents. It was such an unknown thing. And so I'm grateful to be able to give people second chances. I often go in to the prison and say, you want a job? Get a hold of me day one. Between Dave DeRocher and myself and Destiny Garcia and some of the people out there, we will find you a spot. What you do with that spot is up to you, but we will make a way for you to be home and stay home. And it's been a wonderful process. Um, thank you guys for what you do. This is one of those things, especially legislatively. I spend so much time up there with Adam Cohen and Tyler Clancy, and so many of our good legislators that are trying to move the needle on these pieces, but it is a difficult issue. And Utah has been behind the curve on a lot of these things. And so I appreciate you guys. I appreciate that you have some legislative pull. I wish each and every one of you and myself could sit on the board of pardons for a couple of weeks. I know we could make some real change there. And it's slow and steady, and it's two steps forward and two steps back some days. But I really hope that we are headed in a way, and headed towards a society that is a forgiving society. I listened to TED Talk this morning and thought about speaking to you guys, and it said it asked the number one way that we can designate whether we have a good society or not. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of opinions on it. And it said, as a society, do we take the shopping cart at Target when we're done and put it back in in the dispenser, because that means we care more about society than we do about ourselves. And I it's just such a good reminder. One of my good friends, James Childs, he said, before I ever relapse, I litter. And I know if I'm littering and I'm out of integrity and I'm having those problems, that my next step is going to be a drink, or my next step is going to be a bad one. And so it's been nice for me to be able to put those things in my life. If I get upset, I'm going to have a Coke, or I'm going to have a Red Bull, or I'm going to have an extra soda well before I have a beer or anything else. And to be able to teach people that, and teach them how to live and live a different life has been an absolutely wonderful thing. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to be sober, grateful. I have a wonderful family. I have five wonderful kids. I have a son that's on a mission in San Jose, California, that is getting his butt kicked, and his dad is grateful for all of those little butt kickings. As you guys know, it's difficult to see your kids struggle, but wonderful at the same time to see him work hard and do well. And so Um, Steps recovery, we do, we have a lot of places throughout the state of Utah. We have wonderful people in recovery that work for us. A couple of our clinical directors are world renowned, and I don't know if you guys have know Brian Tees at all. He was kind of the first individual that was pardoned in the state of Utah. He's absolutely wonderful. He's our clinical director in Payson, and he went from being a individual in a biker gang that almost beat someone half to death with a tire iron, to being a clinical director and social worker today that graduated first in his class at the U and now sits on the Doppel board for the state of Utah. And so there's nobody, people come in and say all the time, what should I do? And I'll introduce them and say, this is Brian. He's never made anybody's life worse. So if you can pay attention to anything he says, I say, I just do everything he says. So I would recommend that for you as well. So it's nice to have and employ wonderful people, and people that are in recovery and have done it for a lot longer than I have. But I subscribe to the hire really, really brilliant people and stay out of the way. And I was just named to be on the drug task force by this, by the governor for the state of Utah, which I'm excited to work with Tyler Clancy and some of those things, and just grateful for those circle moments and opportunities, because um, as I was in Payson a couple of weeks ago and walked in, and one of the clients said, what do you know about drug addiction? And it was so nice to say, I might not know anything, but I'd sure like to get to know you to see what you know before, we go down that road too far. So, um, and so grateful for you guys. I have a little brother that overdosed and passed away while I was incarcerated. And and uh, and I think we could have saved him today. He spent a lot of time incarcerated, a lot of time in jail, and he had a lot of mental health stuff. And the one thing we do know, and you guys agree upon, our mental health families and loved ones don't need to be put in jail. There's no, the one thing I've learned going to school and working with wonderful psychiatrists and medical directors is that is not a place they belong. whether they're medicated or not, bipolar disorder is not a place that you need to be in a box with your own thoughts and feelings. And so, um, and again, why do we put people, sick people in a box with other sick people and think that they're going to come out well? Why can't we release everybody to the other side academy and put them in front of Dave DeRocher for 60 days and let's see if you make a better decision. Let's see if by seeing someone sit in front of you and be honest and have integrity and do the next right thing, you don't want a little bit of that in your life altogether. And I think we're headed towards that, you guys. And with your help, I know we can get there at some point. I just hope it'll be in my lifetime and your lifetimes, and we'll get to a spot where we can really, be a state that focuses on forgiveness and second chances. And without that, I wouldn't be here today. I can't believe the opportunities I have, and I'm so grateful for all the little things, just paying my bills and being a dad and picking my daughter up from dance practice tonight. There's not any time I can't just cry in my car headed home from some little event and be grateful. So um, I've tried to employ everybody I was incarcerated with. As I've gone back into prison, I've told everybody, if you get out and you need a job, we'll get you a job. And a lot of those guys have not done well and struggled, but it's great to be able to throw your hat in the ring and try. And I was so blessed to have wonderful family and wonderful friends and a wonderful upbringing. And it just breaks my heart to work with some of the people that parents did meth with them at the age of 8 or 9, or they were stealing to, support their drug habit at 12, or, just were physically or sexually abused at a young age and are trying to recover from those things. And those guys are in there. It's those kind of sad things, but it is the most intelligent, wonderful, kind group of people incarcerated. I um, can remember my first day incarcerated. I was in receiving an orientation. I'd only heard about prison, what was on TV, and this 300-pound guy named Ren Gerber, who was fully tattooed from the neck, came walking over into my bunk. And I thought, I have to fight this guy or he's going to kill me. And Ren walked up and said, "Hey, you look cold. I've got some extra sweats. Do you want them?" And I wish people understood that that's who's there and that's who we've thrown the book at and we've put in there for a long time. And I understand that people make mistakes, but I also understand that having someone believe in you can change your whole life. And and for somebody that's dad never gave up on him, and family never gave up on him, and had a Desmond Lomax that said you can have a different life, it meant everything. So I will spend the rest of my days trying to give out that message and give back what was given to me, and just following you guys' lead on this. So if there's ever anything I can do or help out or give back to you, I'm so grateful and honored to spend time with Anne. She was so kind to, you know, ask me to speak, and I really appreciate that. And you're so wonderful. But that panel of people with Dave and Tyler Clancy and Director Red and here's the most fascinating thing in the world. I had Director Red and Judge Romney come to the jail, and there, Judge Romney is like 10-time Judge of the Year in the state of Utah, and you guys have met Brian Red. He's one of the greatest human beings in the world, and they both went around you guys in the jail and asked how they could be better judges and how Director Red could be a better warden. And Bart does the same thing. What do you need? What can I do for you? And those are the coolest people in the world. They I don't think they've made 10 mistakes in their entire life, but they want to do better and they want to be better, and they're asking, you know what I mean, to do everything they can to be better. And I hope we can, follow that lead, follow those pieces, and just put together more and more things to help people when they get out. So if you guys have family members or people that are struggling, please connect them with me. If we don't have resources in that county, I promise you I know somebody that does, and we can get them connected and get them out and get them around a good group of people. A lot of people do not like AA, and they shudder when I say our company's name, Steps Recovery. And I just remind them that it's a group of people trying to do the same thing you're trying to do, and they're just a few steps in front of you. So please, 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 I've always had a sponsor and a therapist and all those pieces. And it's been a wonderful thing because I am not the smartest person, or left to my own devices in my own head, do I make the best choices all the time, as my wife will completely agree to. But I have such an incredible group of friends, as you guys are included in now. Warren, you said everybody's family. I would second that. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. So,
Wow, I thank you so much for sharing that, Tyler, and we could really feel the love. It looks like are will you take a few questions from the
oh,
community?
absolutely, you bet.
Maybe starting with Molly's got a question and Anne had a question, and then Virginia had a question. Maybe.
Um, First, I just want to say I'm so inspired and I'm so thankful that you're sharing with us. Oh, now I'm emotional. But my question is, do you have any restrictions on the kind of offenses somebody could have if they enter one of your programs?
We don't have any. Obviously, the sex offender thing is a little bit of a tricky um, needle to thread, but if it's somebody we can talk to and guide them, the biggest thing with the sex offense thing isn't the crime as much as it disclosing it to the other people in there. And that's the one thing we keep running into is let's work on this with your counselor. Let's work on this here. Let's not disclose it to everybody, because in those forums it doesn't go well. And so yes, if we'd like to look at anybody, and with access to treatment in St. George, to Payson, to some of the rural areas, we don't have all the restrictions that a lot of treatment centers do. So we'd love to look and see if we can help.
I love that. And then do you have a website where we can look at all of your locations?
Yeah, it's stepsrc.com has all of our information.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And uh,
Oh,
can I well, I'll get it from Anne. I will be doing an article for our newsletter, so I'll probably want to follow up with some questions that I'm not thinking of now.
no,
But
anything you need.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think Anne had a question and somebody had a comment.
Anne, did you want to go off mute and ask your question? Here, I'll unmute you. Here.
Okay, sorry, I was typing a second question. So I did ask, oh, what tools did you use, did you find personally that helped you overcome your addiction? Because I always equate it to like trying to lose weight and how hard it is to lose weight, and yet we expect people to just quit using. And
Mhm.
and it's such much stronger addiction than my love of food. So what tools did you use, and do you still have to use them? Are you still, do you still sometimes think, oh,
And thank you, Anne, for that. I had surgery last year on my shoulder. It went terribly. I ended up having a couple of them and got an infection and was in the hospital for about a 3 month period. And during that, had to go back on opiates, and it was terrible. So I can assure you, I'm still the same addict. My mind goes to, this is wonderful. I can cut this corner and cut that corner, and was, have a loving wife that came in one night and said, hey, we need to do this differently, and was smart enough to listen to her and pay attention and go in a different direction. But the biggest thing is for me was always playing the tape forward. Is this what I want? A lot of the things we teach people is I don't know if you're familiar with dialectical behavioral therapy, but it just goes back to what is your core beliefs. What are you headed towards, and does this feed into those core beliefs and to the goals that you have? If it doesn't, then why are we going backwards, kind of a thing. And so that's really been a good one for me. Is this the way I want to go? And but there's so many tricky things with kratom and all these weird drugs that have popped up you can get in gas stations now. So we're seeing a ton of that are readily abundant and legal, and it's as scary as it's ever been. So yeah, I'm still as crazy as I've ever been, and I'm just aware of it today. I can tell you that. So
That's great. Thank you. And then the second question I typed in was, and I'd asked Dave DeRocher this same thing. Sex offenders, of course, are and that's what my loved one is, are the ones no one wants to deal with. Would you ever contemplate Steps Recovery having a center that is just devoted to sex offenders where they would be safe, where they could be treated, where um,
I've talked with Dave about this and we've looked into it a couple of different ways. The one that we had in St. George was run by a guy that I knew, and it was a sex addiction rehab center down there. I think it's completely doable. For some reason, it's just not. Even Dave, and I can tell you this, going back to school, becoming a counselor, what you learn is people typically become sex offenders because they were perpetrated on,
mhm.
and it really softens up. I have a relative of mine who's in treatment today, and it came out that her brother had perpetrated on her at the age of 9. She'd never talked about it, and she'd been using drugs since that time and been promiscuous since that time, which it just makes perfectly sense from a psychological aspect because of what happened to her, and she's trying to take back control of her life. And so, yes, I would love to do that and look at the problem in the state of Utah is licensing is so very hard. And even with drug addicts, everybody's always worried in every neighborhood that they're going to leave and then rob everybody. And so that's the new, issue. Even in St. George, they picketed us and boycotted us because we were going to, break into everybody's homes when we left treatment. The hard part, Ann, is we always focus on the issues. We don't focus on the people that are doing well.
Yep.
And that was the one thing Bart always, was grateful to have me come back to the facilities because they only see the people that are struggling. They don't see the success stories as much. And so I think if we could get through licensing and figure out a good place, Salt Lake would probably be the best, most, doable place because they're a little more progressive, but that would be the big hurdle, right? And then you would have the liability of them perpetrating again on the other inmates, which would be really, really tricky, right? That's always the one thing because you have other people in there and exposing them to other ones and having them perpetrate is a huge liability. So I think that's why everybody stays away from it.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Okay, I think Jenny had a question about your locations, maybe what the difference is between your different locations. Are you there, Jenny? Jenny might have dropped off.
That's okay.
Are the services
I'm here. I'm sorry. I didn't. No, I was just wondering where your locations were.
So we have residential facilities in Mill Creek, Payson, and St. George, and then outpatient facilities in St. George, Orem, Salt Lake, and pretty much all over in between.
So,
Murray.
Murray, so you have a lot of sober living in Salt Lake.
Yeah, in
But,
Orem, in Murray, in St. George. Yes.
okay, but you haven't moved up towards the north area, like
Yes.
Davis County or Weber County.
We don't have anything up there. We're looking at expanding to Ogden right now. We're in the licensing phase of that. So that's our next
Okay.
heavy lift. And Ogden doesn't like us. So as you can imagine.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
You bet.
Okay, up next, Lori asks, is your sober living for men and women? Did you want to add to that question, Lori?
I'm just wondering if you have different ones for the different sexes.
Yeah, we divide up. We have men's and women's in all the locations.
Okay, good to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
And let's see, I think this one's from Maureen. Is your program faith-based? And Maureen, I don't know if you want to add to that.
So I will share this with you guys. original, we have one of the original texts of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was very, very faith-based. And so we prescribe to being faith-based, whatever you choose, because we found coming in, people are very adverse to the concept of God and faith and whatever that is. But the AA book, as well as a couple other ones, state that when you become healthy and work through your issues, you'll return to the faith of your fathers in a lot of cases. And so we just let you discern and go. We do AA and Red to Road to Recovery and Radical Recovery, or whatever you want to do. We'll let you choose what that is. We just hold you accountable to do those pieces of it, if that makes sense. So we don't want to force you, square peg into a round hole, but we do prescribe that this is unmanageable and you are going to need a power greater than yourself, whatever that is, to overcome your addiction. And your analogy with food is one of my favorite things. We had a therapist that had a food addiction, and the idea of having to eat that food 3 times a day to survive, but doing it in moderation, to be able to manage it, is still one of my favorite lessons, because everybody can relate, with good food and it eating so much that it kills you. It's the exact same with addiction and everything else, right?
Maureen, did you have anything to add? Did that answer your question?
Can you hear me, Shane?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. This new format's really hard for me. Don't know if my video is on or not. My next question is, um, I actually have 2 questions. I'm assuming, but I don't want to assume erroneously, that your company does follow the guidelines for medication-assisted treatment for people with opiate use disorders. Is that correct?
We love and follow MAT. I'm a big
Right.
MAT guy. I'm on the board of directors for Utah Harm Reduction. So I'm a big proponent, and this is a lot, Maureen, to answer your question, but my brother always wanted to smoke marijuana. Had he been alive today, he would have smoked marijuana and it would have been okay, right? He was told he had to get off everything all the time, and that's ultimately why he ended up overdosing and taking his own life in that circumstance. So we really want to meet you where you're at and see the best, most kindest, most painless way for you to get to the next piece, right?
Right. Well, I really appreciate that, because the studies and the research certainly points to the structural changes that happen in the brain with opiate use disorders, and we can't, ignore that. So that's very helpful. And I just want to quickly say I am in awe of your compassion, your journey, how vulnerable and sensitive, and what a lovely person you are. And I thank you. And I also hope that you all are getting the funding that you need if you are, not turning people away who really want help.
Thank you, Maureen. That's you're too kind. We're doing a good job. It's hard to manage the funding pieces, but we've decided to help people when we can help people, and we'll worry about the funding when we need to worry about the funding. So I have a really good business partner who's named Paul Walkenhorst. He was the best linebacker at BYU for a number of years, and he had an opiate addiction, which kept him out of the NFL. And he loves to count every penny. So that is not my forte, and I'm incredibly grateful for him. But we make it work, and so sometimes it's gets down and gets pretty close. But what would we rather be doing? So it's a
Right.
wonderful opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have any other questions for Tyler? If not, I've got a question for you. Oh, go ahead, Ann.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you can do your question first, but I'll just tell you what mine is. The road to expungement is so challenging, and you did it. So at some point, if you could give us just a brief synopsis
Oh,
of
let me.
all the work that took, because
I'll
it
show
is,
you.
you are no longer a felon. You are
I'll
not a
show you. I'll show
felon.
you these, and if you know, these are each charge that I have, the expungement letters that I keep close by. It was a 2 year process, and it was awful and painstaking, and but ended up being wonderful. The biggest thing I would say is from the time I was granted the pardon till the time I actually got the pardon took about 8 months. So that part too is really painstaking. And I was pretty sure every day I was going to get pulled over and get a ticket and have that be back on my record, and it wouldn't happen. So um, it was wonderful. There is a path to it. I talk to people every day though, and it's nice to kind of be able to encourage people on that process, because I think we've just made it so incredibly difficult. But it's, with the help of Destiny Garcia and those guys, they do a wonderful job of connecting people to attorneys and getting through a few steps. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. Congratulations. You've just done
Thank
so
you.
much good and continue.
Uh, I've been very blessed, and that part for your loved ones, if they can secure that, that's a wonderful day. I got to have my family there, and I was okay till the Board of Pardons asked me what my wife meant to me, and then I kind of lost it. But it was awesome. You have to account for every charge and every disposition. So where were you? What happened? And they just want to see if you can account for all of them. And it's a painful thing to go back and relive all of those. But I've been able to do it. And then about 3 or 4, James Childs just did it about 6 months ago, and a few really close friends of mine have gone through it. So it's wonderful. So thank you.
Well done.
And that was a good segue too, Anne, because Destiny Garcia is our guest speaker next month, actually,
Oh,
October 13th.
she's wonderful. You'll love her. She's absolutely the real deal. And she has that organization's incredible.
Yeah. Did you use Clean Slate or did you use her help or?
I didn't, but I sit on their board now and help the people that need it through the pardon piece. So I had a friend that was a private attorney that offered to help me, and it worked good. Once you get to a certain part with the Board of Pardons, um, they want all the information on each charge, and then they want to make sure everything's paid off, and they want to make sure you write like a page disposition on everything. So it takes about 8 months to get to that piece, and then the board decides whether they'll see it or not, and then that piece is about a year of putting all the information together, which is just incredibly tedious. And Destiny really, I think they cut that down to 6 months and 6 months now, which is wonderful. So
Hmm. Were you able to find free resources or did you have to pay out of pocket for a lot of that?
I had a good friend that did it and wouldn't let me pay him on the back end. So it was the guy that had sent quite a few people to treatment. That was a good friend of mine. I asked him to help me, and he had a bunch of interns from BYU, and he let me have one of his interns for a little bit, and she wrote all the dispositions and did an incredible job. And when it came time to settle up, I took him to lunch, and he, just said I wouldn't take your money for all the money in the world. So there's some great people.
That's amazing. So the question that I was going to ask is kind of twofold. What can you give us some advice? For if you're an individual that's maybe is looking for help, but maybe is intimidated by, going into rehab per se, because that sounds like, oh, that's a big commitment. What if they have a job? They're pretty functional, but they still have addiction going on. Like, what kind of advice would you give those people? And then also, what kind of advice would you give family members that are trying to seek help and maybe they're new to all this and just don't even, they're just overwhelmed and don't know where to begin?
My phone number is on there, Shane. I would call somebody that you trust and just have them walk you through the process. Obviously, if somebody's going into rehab everybody will always say residential treatments and is the best, but we deal with a lot of high-ranking military officials. We've had some Secret Service guys. We've had some attorneys. We've had people that just can't leave their daily jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to find an outpatient level where they can see a therapist, have some accountability. And we've had a ton of success that way. So it doesn't have to be a one size fits all kind of component. And, we've kind of found that when people are done and they're asking for help, they really can be done. And, I've spent a lot of time. I've got a couple of buddies that are doctors in the state of Utah that run the doctors program, and understanding they do it on an outpatient level. And because they have 6 years or so of mandated drug test, they have about a 98% recovery rate. So where people's jobs are leveraged and they want to get back to those and it's important to them. We've had a lot of anesthesiologists that really do well on an outpatient level. So it doesn't have to look a certain way. Obviously, if you have a good therapist and good family support, that goes a long way. And so, you're welcome to call me. Love to walk you through it. And you'll find this too for you guys that have loved ones that are younger. We found that 18 to 25-year-old young men that go into residential treatment, a lot of time it exposes them to a lot of people that have struggled for a long time, and that exposure isn't good for them also because they're exposed to career criminals and people that have used drugs for a long time and give them a whole bunch of ideas they didn't have before. So it's nice to find a happy medium. There's a lot of different companies that do it different ways, and it's nice to find one that can kind of meet your needs and make it work for you. So
Do you have any advice for maybe family members who have somebody in their family but is maybe sort of resistant to the idea of help? How would you talk? How would you approach something like that?
I in my own experience with things, the best way and the best thing the family can do is understand that once that family system gets healthy, the individual will get healthy. And I can remember going to rehab, and my family went on a vacation to Hawaii, and they didn't worry about me. And it was kind of the message that my father gave me, that when you want to come back and do the things necessary to be part of the family, then we're here for you and we love you. But we're going to continue on being healthy and having our healthy lives until you straighten this out. And my dad would often say, these are not the choices I would make for you. I would make different choices, but I get to honor the lowest vote, and I'm going to honor your choices. And so I think that's the biggest thing. When you can go to therapy, understand this is going to be a little uncomfortable, and but the truth is you're part of the problem on some level. And so once you can figure out, are you codependent? Are you making it easier on them? Are you giving them, we see 36-year-old guys that want to play video games in the basement and not have jobs, and who's supporting their drug habit, right? Do they have to go to work? Do they have to do different things? If Brian Tees, our therapist, always said, if I'm 45 years old, if you want to pay for me to live in your basement, eat your food, and do drugs, I'd like to do that today, which is kind of just a funny thing to say. But the reality is, how are you contributing to what's going on? And once they get to grow up and be accountable for their own choices, what does that look like? And I just remember them going to Hawaii, me talking to them. They had a wonderful time, and I was in jail, or I was in trouble, or I was in rehab. And it wasn't, I was bad, sick, and wrong. It was, when you want to be healthy, these are the things waiting for you. And when you want to screw around, your life goes a different direction.
I don't want to take up all the time asking questions. I just think of some more good ones. But does anybody else have questions for Tyler you want to ask? Feel free to raise your hand. Maybe while they're thinking, well, oh, now it escaped me. It just went out. Yeah, so I think that's wonderful. And it was going to be about cost. So um, that's probably kind of the other thing, especially if, seems like a lot of families, are on the poor end of the spectrum, especially in this economy right now. How can they go about finding help, getting help, looking for resources, but still being budget conscious?
I would, we're a preferred provider for most insurances, which means, 90 to 95% of all your costs will be met at the door. So I would contact your insurance, see what it looks like. Obviously, if they have Medicaid, that covers it 100%. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and I would make sure you're not paying a fortune out of pocket. We really don't see a lot of people pay cash because that they're going to need 30, 60, or 90 days of treatment. It's way easier to have them get their own insurance, or with the marketplace, that insurance is $6 instead of $30,000, or all the crazy numbers that people pay today. And it's been nice to be an in-network provider because that 95% of all that cost is covered. And understand, if they do it once, there's a good chance they're going to struggle and have to do it again. The idea is that you can, have it be a one-time thing. So, just more than anything, there are a ton of options that don't look like, you paying a whole bunch of money that you don't have. And we don't want you to do that anyway. You even if it's something you want to help with, it's a lot easier to say, hey, we'll cover the $6 or the $12 or the $200 of the marketplace insurance. But the conversation we have on the back end is, you owe mom and dad this $200 at day 60. So what are we going to do, when you're sober, to go to work, to get out, to pay that back? And I think beginning with the end in mind is always a good thing.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's see. I don't see any other questions. I want to be respectful of your time. I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit more about your services and treatments that you offer.
So we have a really incredible program. We have a medical detox in Payson. Most everybody that comes through services, if they need it, starts out in Payson, but we're one of the few facilities where in St. George and Payson, we have 24/7 nursing. We have a psychiatrist that's on staff every day, and our medical director is on staff every day. So if you guys are looking to send somebody somewhere, you need to have those components. The outpatient, the sober living is important, but they need to have a medical director on site. You want them to have nursing available on site, just in case there's problems. And you want to have access to a psychiatrist because, as we know, substance abuse, mental health are kind of the chicken and the egg. What we're finding is, which one came first, and people have been misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder when they were on meth, or with, depression when they were taking opiates for a long time. You really need a 6-month period of sobriety for them to be diagnosed at all. So it's nice to just get a clean slate, say, we're not going to label you, we're going to start over. Let's see what you actually have. Let's see how you feel in 30, 60, or 90 days, and let's go from there. But wherever you guys send people, I'm happy to give you a recommendation. It doesn't have to be steps, but make sure that the doc is on site every day, because we have a guy that's his name is Blake Rapier. He's one of the top addiction medicine guys in the country. Dr. Mendenhall is a board certified psychiatrist that's on IHC's board. I mean, you guys know this. If you see the right psychiatrist, he can do in 3 minutes what would take me as a therapist like 27 years, right? He's so great at diagnosing and doing the med piece and looking at it and then circling back in the next couple of days to see if they feel better or not. So you just really want access to really good people who care and have had some kind of background. But Dr. Rapier was in the ER for 20 years. And so I swear his heart rate never races. He's seen it before. No matter what it is, let's get him a sandwich and get him some Librium and put him to bed, and we'll talk to him tomorrow, or whatever it is. But having really good medical just goes a really long way. So
Maureen posts a good question in the chat. Would you like to ask it, Maureen? Are you on mute still? I can unmute you if you need help.
I'm having the worst
There you
time
go.
finding all these buttons on my phone. I am wondering if you have people or clients who come to you directly from the Utah prison system, with, the obvious, addictive disorders that have not been addressed in the prison.
Yes, we take people directly all the time. We recommend that, especially if they're struggling to come directly from jail or incarceration. And we have a bunch of people, including our clinical director in Payson and another therapist in St. George, that have both been incarcerated, that can work kind of through those incarceration issues.
Oh, okay.
It's a real thing, right? To go right out to the streets and go from, being around 10 people to being around 200 people in Target
It's
it's a real thing.
it's horrific, has been
Yes.
my experience with my loved
Yes.
one. And my next question is, I'm assuming, I mean, you alluded to this a bit, but my experience is that the time spent behind bars causes really severe trauma for many individuals. And I think that that probably complicates addictive disorders immensely. I'm assuming you have trauma specialists in the various treatment centers that you have.
We do trauma informed care today. So once they've been assessed and find that they have that kind of trauma, we usually put them with a mental health therapist that will work through that trauma and go through the incarceration piece, and just kind of how you eat an elephant, right? Just those little pieces, one day at a time. And
Right.
so, yes, to your point, anxiety, depression, all those things are exacerbated by being incarcerated. We're very aware of that, but very grateful to get people in a safe place where they can start to kind of process and go through that, where they can get ready to go home.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And
You
I'm
bet.
assuming we can share your information on our UPAN family Facebook group.
Happy to do it, and call me anytime. My cell phone's on there, and Ann has it, and you guys are welcome to call me anytime. I'm happy to help. So,
Great. We have 2,500 family members. You know that,
well, yeah.
right? You may not want to give your cell phone out.
No, I'm happy to help. And it's one of the gifts of being sober is getting to help people. Cause I think of my own family, and, I'm happy to help and get back. So hopefully they don't all call on the same day. It may take me a couple of days to get back to them, but yeah,
Thank you so much.
you bet. Thanks, Maureen.
So maybe what I'll do is I'll just put up on the screen like maybe an email address or a phone number for you. So I see a
Yeah.
24-hour hotline on your website, this 801-614-7372.
Yep. They can call and they'll get admissions. But let me give you my cell phone also. It's 801 372 7106.
Okay.
And my email is ty at stepsrc.com.
Does that look right? I don't know if you can
Yep.
see the screen.
No, you got it. Yep. Those are perfect.
Here, I'll try to make it bigger for everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And as you guys know, I'm happy to help and talk to anybody and help them through, because it is a bit daunting, and you want people to have a good experience, and you only want them to do, I asked my doctor when I was having shoulder surgery, what's the worst case scenario? And he said, the only thing worse than having surgery once is having it twice.
Oh, yeah.
So I would recommend that with treatment. The only thing worse than doing it once is doing it again. So if we can get ahead and do it one time, that's really the goal, right?
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's mostly it. Do you anybody else have some final questions for Tyler before we move on to the next agenda item? Any closing
This
comments?
is Molly. I just want to again say thank you so very much for the work that you do.
Thank you.
And I love the story. And I don't know, the happy ending, even though you're not ended, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Tyler.
guys, and thank you for UPenn. You guys are wonderful. So you guys know, how much it means to your loved ones to have somebody, believe in them. So thank you for what you guys do. It's awesome.
We appreciate you. This was as wonderful as I expected. So thank you.
Well,
Well, Tyler
Thank you,
talked
man. I
to the
appreciate
board of directors. Maybe we can talk him into joining UPAN's board of directors. Add another
it.
one to your resume.
Love to help. I'd love to be a part of it. Anything I can do. So you guys are real close to my heart. I can remember going in and meeting with those colonels and having them vote us out of the jail. So I'd love to help. I get to see him in the hallway every now and again, and every time I just think I remember you.
I remember you.
Yeah.
So funny. Well, you're welcome to stay, Tyler, or you can drop off if you like. Thank you again so much.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you guys. I've got a dinner to get to, and
okay,
so
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank you.
appreciate your time. Okay, next up we've got Molly. I usually use the next 10 minutes for Molly and any announcements from the UPAN directors. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to talk about.
Well, I just want to give an update. We've had a lot going on. Anybody that's been on the family Facebook group knows of all the craziness that's going on with the changes in procedures going back to original policies, but we didn't have a lot of warning. And so I, and this has impacted our professional relationship with corrections. And so I had a meeting with Jared Garcia today, and we kind of smoothed some things out. We are about building bridges, and we are about finding solutions. And he expressed the desire that he wants to continue our relationship, and that they do appreciate what UPenn brings to them, because it's such an like the Department of Corrections is such an extremely huge organization, and I can't remember if I didn't take notes, but 20,000 people in the Department of Corrections, whether they're in prison, whether they're in halfway houses, or whether they're on probation or parole. And so, because of the lack of communication that has occurred recently, and all of the drama that's created with families, all of the emails they're getting, he wanted to reassure us of several things. So I will just, it's dark, so I can't, I'm sorry, I'm doing this in the blind. So for the rumor that we keep hearing and that has been facilitated by Officer Pendleton in USCF, that UDC is their ultimate goal is to end in-person visiting. That is not true. And I got that directly from Jared Garcia. What is true is they are determined to do everything they can to eliminate any entrance of contraband through visiting. And we discussed the other ways contraband enters the prison. And he assured me that they are also addressing those, which, have to do with staff and shipments coming into the facility and volunteers, things like that. So I will, we also have a stakeholders meeting tomorrow where we're going to get a lot more answers on a lot of the issues, because the fact that they still don't have the visiting rules, the updated visiting rules, the updated dress code out on the website is of serious concern to us. But I was able to help Jared Garcia understand that they're still operating under these new rules without them being public. And he did not appear to be really fully aware of that. So it was a very helpful discussion. And then tomorrow we should be getting more answers on how things are supposed to happen when they go back to the policy of the 10 phone numbers on an incarcerated person's approved phone list, and the logistics and the mechanisms that can be used of how they verify those phone numbers. Those are the two big ones. And then he assured us, or he assured me, that they are very, very, very aware of the problems within the housing as they try to rebalance things. Unfortunately, and this is my position, unfortunately, their data that shows that violent incidents have gone down since 2023 does not include those incidents that occur um, behind closed doors in those 8-man cells after lights out. And, and when people can't be observed and they're not going to be reported. And we made it, I say I was the only one in there with him. I tried to make it very clear that while I understand that UDC's position is, well, how are they going to know if people don't report, that it would be in some cases, fatal for somebody to report. So that they've got their data of what's actually reported because an officer catches it or because SWAT comes in and has to break up a fight or whatever. But he was receptive to our to the discussion about the challenges with that, the data that they have versus what's really happening in the um sorry, I should turn on my light. What's happening in the maybe that works better. Okay, what's happening in the actually in the housing units. So it was only an hour, but we covered a lot in an hour, and he reinforced the desire to keep our communication open and that he recognizes UPAN is important to provide them with information that they may not otherwise get from the family perspective because they only get what the officers end up telling the deputy, or the housing captains that tell the deputy wardens, that tell the warden, that tell the division of prison operations, that tell the deputy executive directors before it ever gets to Jared Garcia. So, so I think we repaired a little bit of that relationship. Um, the other thing I do want to take the opportunity to say, and we don't have a lot of people on here, and I'm preaching to the choir probably, but I want to remind everybody that UPAN does not have any lawyers or legal advisors on our board, and we do not participate in lawsuits as an organization against the UDC. And here's why. The minute litigation is discussed, all communication will be cut off and UPAN will no longer be able to advocate. So if families want to there's been a lot of talk of people wanting to start a lawsuit over visiting and things like that. But I just want everybody to understand that the minute that that happens, then UDC will no longer talk to whoever is party to that lawsuit because it all has to go through the lawyers after that. And the reason UPAN doesn't, I mean, other than that, another reason UPAN doesn't participate in lawsuits is because lawsuits can take years and years and years to resolve. And we are trying to resolve things in weeks or maybe months, but not 5 or 10 years. So I just want to say that. And with that said, I think that's what I remember. I feel is important to talk about. So I'll yield to whoever else wants to talk.
I just want to quickly add to that, Molly, that I think that organizations like ACLU that work a lot through lawsuits are important, and sometimes that's what is needed to get done. But the organizations who try and work with the whomever, that's what I like to be a part of. That's because that's the way I like to work, is not through confrontation, but working together with someone. And so I think it's important for people to recognize that UPAN, our goal is to work with them. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. You can make enemies of someone and it's not going to work well. You're not going to have any influence. And you have done a marvelous job of developing and maintaining a good relationship with UDC. That's why I love this organization. That's why on my nature side, I work with the Nature Conservancy, because I like the type of advocacy that is working with to do to see results rather than lawsuits. Although I think lawsuits sometimes are what is needed and have their place, but we're not the organization that does that.
Thank you. And it really does help to build. When we very first had our first family meeting, one of the things that triggered that was we were going to focus meetings. My husband and I were, and some other people were, And it got a little bit contentious, and focus meetings were what the UDC used to have for family members and other public organizations to come in and talk about issues and learn what was going on. And I realized, wow, we need to build bridges. And that's really what UPAN has been about, build bridges with families so families can learn how to advocate for their loved ones. And I think I'm going to announce it now. I haven't talked to you about it, Anne or Shane, but I would like in January for us to do, Karen and Amanda, if you're on here, there you are. We need to do our how to advocate again in January meeting if it's not already filled. And if it is, then February. But we did one this past January, but we have a lot of new family members in our family group that don't come to our meetings. They don't read our newsletters. They just found us on Facebook. And I think we need to have that meeting, and we need to continue to encourage them to learn everything, because people want to participate in the advocacy. But the only way to do that, other than what we ask them to do on their own, but in order to be one of the UPAN directors, they have to understand how the system works, and they have to understand how to advocate in a way that we can keep those lines open. Anyway, I'll be quiet again.
Well said. And I might add on to that, for those that are looking for immediate pointers, we do have the video. I'm not sharing my screen. We do have the video posted on our website of the last one that we did, and also links to the accompanying slide decks as well. We encourage you to go back and watch that if you can in the meantime.
And the February newsletter has a complete summary of everything that was discussed in that meeting.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I'm going to depend on Karen and Amanda to present with me when we do it again. But I think we need to do that a minimum of once a year.
Uh-oh. So on our webpage, I don't know why that's looking so janky. I'll have to check that out. But right on the homepage here, there's a video right here, and this is actually a link, and you can click on this, and this should take you to a page that's got the download links for the slides, so you can download the slides and the speaker notes and everything here. And then there's also helpful email addresses, how to get a hold of us. But we encourage you to go watch this video.
Yes. Does Karen want to talk about the holiday project?
Yes, Karen. You need to be unmuted here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, I want to start out really quick now. Molly, I'm so glad you had that meeting today. I have some of the discussion on the family pages has just been gut wrenching, and it's all, made, I don't know. It's not who UPAN is what is being presented there. And I'm almost wondering if, we ask some questions of people when they petition to join our group. Could we make a viewing of that video, or at least something that say, please watch this, and so you understand what we're about and how we work, and do you really want to be part of us? Because we're not the ones that are going to go out and tip over cars and start things on fire, and I don't know, just a thought that we can work on.
Yeah.
On the holiday project, so far I've got 36 applications. I think they're coming slow because I'm hearing from some family members, they haven't seen the newsletter yet, and that goes back to the Pigeonly problem. But they're starting to come in. I've also had 6 different people reach out to me and say, when this gets rolling, what can I do? How can I help? We've also had some very generous donations that said these funds are earmarked for the Christmas project, and let us know if you need more. I still haven't heard back from Ryan Smith's group yet, but I weekly I'm reminding them. I have the count. This is how many basketballs were requested last year. This is how many jerseys were requested. And it sure would be nice, if you guys want to make a donation and help out. So it's coming, it's moving. I just, I just hope that we don't get so bogged down with the slow mail delivery. But
Yeah, my loved one just got his, it took him 3 weeks to get his August newsletter. And I tried to get the September one out earlier. So hopefully they'll be get it for people that actually downloaded them when we actually got the
mhm.
newsletter out. Hopefully, and if they sent them at that week, then maybe they'll get them by maybe next week. But I think what I've been doing when I see new people sign up, I don't normally do this, but when I see that new people have signed up on MailChimp, I get an email on the UPAN Gmail, and because I try to keep it compatible with the MailChimp
Mhm.
list, and I've started sending them the July and August, well, now the August and September newsletters, so that the brand new people that have signed up should at least get the last 2 months newsletters that have already gone out, just so they know about the holiday program.
Sounds great. So, um, I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for Thursday for the family orientation.
Oh,
So,
tell everybody about the family orientation really quick, and then we'll move to Warren.
okay, it starts at 6:30. It's at the Fred House Academy. We have still been afforded the opportunity to have our information table there. I really liked the way that it worked last time, Anne, with you. There were three of us sat at the table, and you were out there and able to mingle and kind of greet and steer people towards our table for more information. So I did send a note out, and Molly, I'm so glad you're better and will be able to join us. But any of the other directors, we could use your help. We could use your presence, and I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think we're going to have some, maybe possibly some of the families that have been involved with the journey for a while, just because they'll have the opportunity to hear firsthand what the visiting policy is, what the mail policy is, what we're going to do about phones, and hopefully they'll have some of those answers for them. So,
Exactly. And I've had a couple people ask, well, if we live stream, isn't that good enough? And if you live far away, certainly live stream it. But if you can be there in person, you get to meet the division
yes.
directors and the representatives from the different divisions of UDC and ask them questions.
So, yeah, we'd love to see you there, and we'll try to be there by 6 o'clock, so we've got time to set things up and meet with the people as they arrive. And it really is it's kind of fun. It's another good opportunity to meet the families and to, I don't know, just encourage them. And Anne, thank you so much for tonight. That was so encouraging and just brought hope and some promise. And I really appreciate you putting that together.
Thank you. He is such a remarkable man, and yeah, just it's so inspirational to see. And there were several at that panel who'd been in prison, some for a couple of decades, and had gone on. One guy was going to law school. I mean, these are people who've been in the system for years or decades and have overcome and are being highly successful. And yeah, it was just, I was thrilled to get him, and he was so happy to do it.
Thank you.
We'll get to you in just a second. We missed a question in the chat. Suzanne Tanner asks, why are there not cameras in the dorms?
Are you talking about the safety and security? There are cameras in the housing units, but I don't believe there are cameras inside those 8-man cells or the 2-man cells. There are cameras that aim into them, but they're not cameras in the shower. Could you imagine how
Oh,
upset so many people would be if there were cameras in the shower and in the I mean, we just had a big old deal about the curtains on the shower not being long enough, so some people could see up into them. But there are cameras in the housing units, but not inside those cells. But that's an old story. I argued against 8-man cells back when they were building the prison, and they said, "Oh, it'll be a privilege," and I'm like, "No." Would it be a privilege for you to live with 7 other people that you don't even know or even like? No. And it's really not good now. But anyway. So that's all I can say about cameras in the in the cells.
Okay, Heidi.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to report that we have a new board member, Brett Varez, and he has been with the Board of Pardons on our committee since 2011 and actually has been with the Department of Corrections for 21 years. And he is fantastic. I think Molly can even say that. Any of the board meetings that we go to, he is always more than willing to talk to us, more than willing to tell us or answer any of our questions. And I am so excited that he was nominated. Well, he's not nominated yet, but I'm sure he will pass. If you want to read more about him, you can go to the board website and you can read about him, but he's going to be fantastic. And everybody should be really excited that he's on.
I was thrilled. And we did,
Yes.
actually, we were in a meeting, Heidi, when we found out that they had a board member opening and we asked if he was going to apply. And
Yeah.
he said, "Oh, I don't want that responsibility." And then the next thing we knew, he was one of the 5 finalists. But yeah, he was the best out of those 5 finalists. There were 2 prosecutors, a defense attorney, and an APNA agent, and then Brett. And Brett has been going to the prison for the Incarcerated Inmate Advisory Council meetings. He's
Yeah.
been on our committee with the advocates, and he has been going to the family orientation and talking to people about how the board works. So I'm thrilled, and I don't see why it won't be confirmed. But we wrote a letter. I mean, I wrote a letter, and you guys said, yes, send it. So we wrote a letter to the Dan Strong and somebody else on the sentencing commission that chose out of the 5 candidates. So yes, thank you, Heidi, for reminding us.
Yeah. He's a very, very kind, understanding person.
He'll be a good balance on that board. He'll be a really good balance of the prosecutors.
Mhm.
Warren had a question at some point, but I don't see him.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh,
Yeah, I have been listening to all this and somewhat disturbed over the last several months about this, if I can be so bold, silly, pigeonly mail system. The contraband and coming in and so forth certainly is not prominently from mail. But there might be some way we could get around this with the newsletter so that the newsletter could reach the inmates without going through pigeonly by either maybe marking the envelope newsletter, going directly to the local mail handling, and be distributed within a couple of days. It would be a relief to pigeonly. They didn't have to recopy all this stuff like they do apparently. Anyway, I think it's a potential goal to exempt the UPAN newsletter from pigeonly and let it go directly. It can be opened in the local mail facility and distributed if they want. But to me, that was a major step backward, and I think we might be able to work on correcting that. That's all.
thank you very much, Warren. I did talk briefly with Jared Garcia today about getting the UPenn newsletter put on the tablets, and that's just a long process that they're still working on. They are working on alternatives to Pigeonly, but I'm going to share something now. I guess it's okay to share it. Because families get the newsletters and print them out and mail them into their loved ones. And they're not, if they're not a newsletter volunteer, they're not supposed to use the UPAN return address. But some of them do. Dion and I have figured out because stuff has gotten returned to us and they're not, the return address is UPAN, but we have no record of the inmate. So it means a family member was sending it to someone and not a UPAN volunteer. But there was a new UPenn newsletter found or reported to me, let's put it that way, that had it was on paper that had Suboxone on it.
Oh, no.
And therefore no, we can't push for physical because we have no control who mails the newsletter in. But if we can get it on the tablets, that's what we're advocating for. But UDC, I'm hoping tomorrow in that stakeholder meeting that we're going to find out what their alternative is because every single month we've been asking, and in June, Shane has it on here, but they announced that they were going to try to do an alternative. And we just keep asking, when is that alternative going to be and what is it going to be? But I
Yeah.
totally agree with you about the newsletter, and we're trying to get it on the tablets.
One thing, when somebody violates the principles that, like soaking this thing in some drug or something, uh, nail that SOB right on the spot and publicize it, and it should cut things down. You know, when people were tearing down statues here in the last couple of 3 years, Trump came in and said, "Okay, 10 years in the slammer," and it stopped like a guillotine. If we
But we
punish
don't know
those
who it
who
is.
if we punish those who cross the line and make it known, we'll clean up that act real quick. That's all.
Thank you, but we don't know we don't know who's doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, how I found out. Well, I don't want to tell you how I found out about the UPenn newsletter. Um, but I'm thankful that apparently it hasn't happened since. Well, obviously it hasn't happened since because it's going through Pigeonly now, but um it had that been detected in the mailroom, no UPenn newsletter would ever get in again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
I agree they should be punished, but you can't punish who you don't know. And who would be punished is UPenn.
Well, it
Yeah.
could be traced. It could be traced back and so on. I won't go into the details, but possibly I'm overemphasizing things. But I know our primary purpose is keep families informed and help them through their prison journey. But secondarily, we want to promise hope, possibility of a better life, and so forth to all the inmates who read the newsletter. So there
Yes,
is a fairly strong second priority there.
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we just did the tour through the prison because I'm doing that Citizens Academy. And they have a giant print shop there. So how come we can't get them to just print it and give it out?
Because we would have to pay them for it, and we don't have that kind of fund. Because the print
Oh,
shop is UCI.
okay. So it's expensive?
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. So if UPenn is all unfunded and we're all volunteer and we don't have a central location, that's why we depend on volunteers to send to inmates who don't have family to do it and then families to send in. But if we can get it on the tablets, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you. That was a good idea. I don't want to minimize what you said, Lori.
Well, I'm
Sorry.
like, geez, I saw a giant print shop there. Can't we just print it and hand them out? But okay.
If we only, yeah, not 3,000 copies, or right now I think I don't know how many people get it because I don't know. We have like 1,500 on our mailing list. We have another 2,500 on the Facebook group, but not everybody probably gets on Facebook all the time and they can download it there. So we truly don't know how many of the 6,000 inmates in IPP jails and in both prisons actually get the UPenn newsletter. But yeah, that's not something we could afford to pay for. So anyway, but that was a good idea. It's just that, well, when UCI comes in, that's how we learned about it was in the Citizens Academy last year, that they charge and they've got to support themselves. So
Yeah, gotcha. I'm learning all kinds of stuff, but yeah, it's fun.
I'm so glad you're going.
Hey, Okay, well, that's pretty much it, folks. We're excited to announce our next date. It will be Monday, October 13th. We will have special guest Destiny Garcia, Executive Director of Clean Slate Utah. She will be talking about challenges of formal incarceration, transformative process of expungements. So, anything you ever wanted to know about expungements? Sure, go ahead, Anne, Molly.
Yeah. Just really quickly, and then in November, we do have Jared Garcia.
Oh, we
and
did.
upper higher ups of UDC. So they will
So
be
if you
November.
have questions for Jared Garcia, please start getting them into me
Yeah, we-
because I want them all no later than like October 10th to be able to get compiled and sent to him so that he's prepared
Mhm.
and has the right staff with him to answer families' questions. So please email him and email him to the contact at utahprisoneradvocate.org.
we should get that on the Facebook page. I
Yeah,
don't know who does that.
yeah. If you'll
I don't
email
know how to
him,
do nice things on the Facebook page.
Maybe I'll share a form. We can just have a form that people fill out.
Mhm.
You could just go straight into an Excel document for you. Anyway, we could figure out the logistics.
okay, yeah, however it works. And the more organized it is, the better, because I am drowning in paper. So thank you guys.
Good. Thanks, everyone. Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Time.